What was the thing that was like, I'm going to take this risk?
Getting uncomfortable. I needed to get uncomfortable.
There was a lot of advantages to your setup at Farmers, a lot of disadvantages. I could tell as time was going that you were struggling with hitting your head on a ceiling.
I started to target larger accounts and I was batting zero.
You were in AA, AAA baseball, but you were ready for the big leagues.
I mean, I've never been more motivated in my life to be successful. This is the time to get into insurance on the brokerage side. We only going up, baby.
I love it, dude. I love it. Well, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Risky Assets Podcast. Today's a special one. It's someone I've known for a long time, good friend, and now employee, technically, of Greyhawk. And this is Roger Romero, a.k.a. Rogelio. Thanks for coming, brother.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Well, so just to jump in real quick and give some context here, me and you have known each other for a while, okay? And I thought the interesting part about inviting you on this podcast, because this is an entrepreneurial podcast, is that you technically are an entrepreneur within a business, right? Because you have to generate your own leads. You got to do your own thing. You're basically a business owner within the business. So for context for the audience, this is why I think it's important and it's cool to see the entrepreneurial spirit and some of the risks you've taken even recently to kind of get to where you're at now and kind of how the payoff has been, because you're kind of a success story of how things should look. So with all of that said, just give us a rundown on who you are. Like, what were you doing before you got into the insurance business?
Yeah, so, I've always been like super active just throughout high school and stuff. My mom's a personal trainer, and I kind of got thrown into that gig early.
The personal training gig?
The personal training gig early. Really liked it. I mean, a lot of my friends were working out with my mom, and I was getting paid to.
She's a gangster.
To kind of do that, and I honestly thought that was going to be like my trajectory for life, and then, growing up playing Pee Wee football, Jim Mulligan, who's one of my mentors still to this day, he was a district manager at Farmers Insurance, gave me an opportunity like after school to bring me in, sit me down for an interview, kind of talk to me about, where my career can pivot to.
Sure.
He was always driving around in nice cars.
Yeah, dude.
Has a nice house.
Those insurance agents, bro.
Yeah, flashy, but that also interested me a lot. I mean, he happened to be my neighbor in La Cañada growing up, and I always was impressed by him. He spoke well, knew a lot of people, well connected, and so I kind of took that leap, took a summer, got licensed. I've always been a good networker.
Sure.
Good.
Yeah, love you some people. Yeah.
Good people person. And he kind of sold me on that. Yeah. He was like, this is a great community to really build a foundation for.
Of course.
In La Cañada and Pasadena, and with my mom's network of people, my dad's network of people, it really was intriguing to me. And so I kind of just took that like leap of faith and got into the industry and the corporate life, I guess. Yeah. And in the beginning was tough, Oh,
dude, anything in the beginning for insurance is a grind.
Yeah,
and so before we go and talk about some of that stuff, I don't think I've ever even asked you, did you go to college?
I did. So I went to college. I went to Orange Coast College for a couple years, got my AA there. And then
just goes to show you how much I care about degrees now. I didn't even asked you.
So then I kind of pivoted towards the university side, Cal State side. And,
sure.
And, I did a couple like sales jobs, like internships before I pivoted to that. And I was really interested in making money.
Yeah, dude, I get it.
I was really interested in making money. And I just didn't think that was the
tradition.
The traditional route for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of just jumped in and
it.
started working and grinding. And if there's one thing I know to do is
It's
to grind.
Yeah. No, you do a good job at that.
And work and just put your head down and get things done. So
I love it. So at that point, what year did you end up starting at that farmer's agency? Was that 2011?
2011, I did an internship at like the district manager's office. So a business side of it. Kind of got to understand the ins and outs of insurance. I had no background in insurance at all.
Yeah.
2014 is when I really started to like sell.
Got it.
And was comfortable going to appointments by myself, doing that whole
not winging it and actually knowing what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. So 2011, I would say kind of dipped my foot into the insurance industry. But then it wasn't really until like 2013, 2014 until I was like, okay, like I can truly see myself in this industry. I can see myself in this career.
Totally.
So then that's when I really started to push forward on pushing myself forward.
What's funny is that we ended up starting around the same time, technically. Yeah. Obviously, you went kind of more the farmer's route. I was on the independent side, but it was 2011 for me, and I really started like, okay, I can do this. And around 2012, I started like actively selling, I would say comfortably, where I wasn't like scared of everything I was doing. So it was funny how we started the same time. Our paths intersected a lot over like the past 10 years.
Yeah.
So with that said, how long were you at Farmers overall? I know it was till 2022, three.
Yeah.
Okay, last year, right?
3, yeah. So yeah, good 11 years.
And you did pretty well for yourself there at the end. You had a good book of business. You had things going. There was a lot of advantages to your setup at Farmers, a lot of disadvantages, which we'll cover later. But from your perspective, like what was our relationship like? How did we end up meeting? And what was our working relationship throughout that time?
Yeah, so I think we first met at a BNI networking event.
Yes.
And I think that truly was the first time I had met you. And then like a month later, ironically, we went to
it was Barbario's
house or I had gone for his birthday or something. And I saw you there and I was just like, whoa, like what a small world.
Yeah.
And then we kind of, picked up where we left off with, having our conversation and
we're the only insurance nerds around. Like I didn't have many insurance buddies.
Yeah. No. There was nobody, like literally nobody that I knew that was in the game, which honestly I felt like was another advantage for me.
Huge advantage.
Because like, typically, at least from my perspective now, it's like, if you have a good amount of friends and family, like, and they don't necessarily know their insurance guy, then they're gonna pretty much go to you. Of course.
For it. Well, and I don't know how it was for you, but every insurance guy I saw didn't look like us at the time.
Right.
We were in our mid-20s. Yeah. I was still in shape. It was like it was a very different look, and I was like, I bet you this could make sense long term.
For sure.
Right. So, and then from there, you were at Farmers for those 11 years. Kind of give us the pro con. Like, what were the pros of being there? Give me some of the good things, and kind of flesh out what that looks like.
Yeah, a lot of pros. In the beginning, when I was starting back in 2011, the market was nowhere near
totally different
than it is today. But I mean, having a brand like Farmers is very reputable,
hugely powerful.
Very powerful. People, I feel, still like big brand names.
Sure.
So Farmers, I think that was a huge advantage for me in the beginning. We were really good at that small to middle market client on the commercial side.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Small to middle market client. Really good at restaurants and some other stuff. Apartments we used to crush in.
They've
Absolutely.
always been a property giant.
Yeah. Home and auto, we did pretty well in. I mean, our home product was phenomenal. Our auto is a little bit high.
But people still bought it. Again, there was that brand recognition. I'd rather have Farmers than whoever the next one that they didn't know as well. So I totally understand that.
And really just packaging everything together. If you had a business, you had a home, you had your auto, you had an umbrella, you had your life.
All the hooks, yeah.
That's Farmers' preferred client.
Yeah.
So, that was really captivating to a lot of people. And how I grew my book of business was really just rounding the account out, using that farmer's brand to make a staple. And then as the years kind of went by, I really started to try to target larger accounts,
Sure,
manufacturers, wholesale distributors, larger property. And I was bad in zero. And so then I kind of just like, it made me kind of take a step back and look at like, what am I doing wrong here?
yeah. And actually, so we kind of we got distracted, but you would end up calling me like, hey, I have this account. Where do I go?
Yeah.
What do I do? And obviously on the independent side, I was very much like, well, there's a program for everything.
Right.
I can go find it through X, Y, and Z, wholesaler or carrier or whatever. You should do that.
Right.
There was a couple of times where I think we worked together on a couple of accounts, but I could tell as time was going that you were struggling with hitting your head on a ceiling. It's like, hey, I need to go further and I can't. So
and
anyway,
that was the con.
Right. That was the con, right.
And that's a huge con because, you obviously work to, elevate yourself and you want to make more money and you have these big dreams and everything else. And then you kind of stall out and you're like, whoa, like I'm here, but I want to be here. Like, and I had zero knowledge about the independent space.
Right.
I mean, there's like a whole new world when, we had phone conversations and you were, saying names like Hartford and Hanover and Travelers. And I was just like, who's that? Like, and so.
And you had a limitation in the comp market, right? Which was which is like how I broke into which is how most brokers break into the industry is you go target comp and like you can go to anybody and there's a lot of skill and sophistication on the servicing, but the options were easy. You just had to have them, which we did.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had talked about a lot of that stuff being a challenge for you, which completely understandable with the limitations farmers set.
Right. And Farmers was great in what they did.
Of course,
super great. But at the same time, there was a point that I just needed to at least understand, the independent side. Because I would go to these big boy, appointments and I'd be confident in our product and maybe not, I guess, our pricing because I didn't really know what else was out there.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I'd go into the meeting and then she would be like, oh, well, the business owner would be like, oh, this is what I have compared to yours. And I'm like, whoa, like.
Do you feel like you're getting mopped?
I was getting mopped up, dude. I was like, who is this? Like,
yeah.
I remember seeing Hanover on all my big property, risks or whatever, opportunities. And I'd be like, who is Hanover and how do I meet him? I was just like, I need to know this guy. But at that time, it was a carrier.
I remember you calling me about it. Do you have Hanover? And I think I said, dude, I'm killing it with Hanover because I had the market and I was writing everything with them. That was the power of the independent. Whoever was hot, I could go to them, right?
And then on the larger scale apartments and HOAs, Philadelphia.
Philly,
And I was like, dude, who's Philadelphia? Yeah. Like, what is, and so it was intriguing. Like, it was frustrating.
I get it.
It was super frustrating because I felt like I was there.
Behind your back.
I was there.
You had all the tools from hey, I can sell it, I can talk to it. It was just your finished product wasn't there. It was limited for what you wanted. And obviously, I think from there, it's a good segue to go, when did you start to go, maybe realistically, I need to look somewhere else? Because I had been prodding you about it. And so again, more context, when I was at my previous agency, I would help you all the time. It was fine because I had no skin in the game. I was like, whatever, we're at the same place. But when I left to start Greyhawk, I felt like I was giving away free advice. And I was like, I feel like Roger could work here, but I can't keep giving him freebies. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember the phone call, but
Dude, I remember exactly where I was. I had just taken my dog. I dropped my dog off at the vet. And I was having a conversation with you about a securities client.
That's what it was, yeah.
Yeah. And he was giving me an opportunity. I mean, this was going to be
it's a big account.
Yeah, big account. I mean, and I wanted to win it. Like, this is where, I mean, I had my son. I had just had my son like maybe a year prior, maybe a little bit younger. And I was like, all right, like I need to start, you know, grind. Like I need to make that next step. And yeah, and then you gave it to me straight up, and I was like, all right, like I need to make some decisions here. And,
yeah. Well, my opinion. So for the conversation was, hey, can you help me? And I said basically no.
Yeah.
Like I was like, if you want me to help, you're gonna work for me.
Yeah.
Well, I had the opinion that you had all the intangibles. You just were handcuffing yourself where you were at. And I was like, if there's ever a chance to get you to come over, this was my opportunity, because I'm like, I just I couldn't do this longer. I was growing a business. I had a lot of time, and I was like, I feel like we could make it work together. Yeah. You ended up kind of doing, or we kind of did like a middle ground where it's like you were still working at that farmer's agency, but I helped you, and we were going to see if we can't make something work.
Right.
And now that didn't work out, but I think you saw some of the resources and the way that we went about our business that was intriguing to you.
Right.
So from your perspective, how did that go?
Yeah, I mean, it was a well-oiled machine. You know, it was, if I had questions about something, or, you know, we wanted to kind of shoot the shit or whatever about an account, you know, you were always open to that. Very, very, like coachable. You coached me through a lot of things, and, you know, from an industry standpoint, and kind of just like a insured standpoint, like just what markets to approach and everything else. I was like, okay, he knows a lot about insurance. And, you know, I wanted to get to that point where, like, you know, if something came across my desk, like I wouldn't be spinning my wheels like, oh, let me submit here and here and here and here, where it's like wasting a bunch of time. But, you know, you have those markets that are very like exclusive.
Of course, yeah.
And it felt like anytime I brought something to you, you were like, oh yeah, you know, me and my business partner, we have X, Y, and Z with this market, or we have this with that. And I was like, okay, like this is good. Like I need, and you know, no knock on like the agent that I was working for at Farmers.
It wasn't his problem.
Yeah,
it was the whole limitation of the system.
Exactly. And he was good at what, you know, Farmers allowed him to be good at.
Sure.
But, you know, with everything else, that other opportunities that I was able to, you know, nourish through relationships, it was just not, you know, you can't fit a square peg in a round hole, right?
No. And the reality, again, it's hard to see when you're in it, and maybe I relate to this, but like you were in AA, AAA baseball, but you were ready for the big leagues.
Yeah.
And I think from your perspective, you were like a little scared of it or whatever, but you had all the stuff, you just didn't have enough competition, right? Like you needed to get to the big leagues to play and realize your full potential. And so kind of with that, I ended up dragging you to a meeting, right? You agreed.
I do. You know, you said a lot of stuff that was really intriguing to me. I don't feel like you forced me to the meeting. I do. You definitely put some emphasis in. You pushed hard, but I think I was ready for it.
Yeah.
But I needed that push.
Sure.
I needed that push to get me out of my comfort zone, because I was comfortable, man. I was comfortable. I worked in La Cañada. I lived in Pasadena. It was 3 exits.
So easy.
You know, I was 4 miles from home. I went home every day for lunch to see my son and my wife. Like that kind of was what, you know, I guess held me back from making that next step. And, you know, my wife and I, you know, my wife she's a businesswoman, and
she's a gangster.
And she's a gangster. She's a woman. She is truly like a businesswoman. And,
totally.
You know, she was hesitant about me, you know, not taking the meeting, but making the next step, because she knew I was serious about it after the meeting. And you know, she just is a number person. She wanted to see the numbers. She wanted, and I was like, honey, like
that's gonna be hard to quantify.
Yeah. You know, and I was confident in myself, and for us for where we wanted to be, where we are today, thanks to Greyhawk, honestly, truly, I knew I just needed to do it, man. And
it was a step back at the time, right? You have to go, all right, I'm giving up a book.
Yeah.
I hope I can rewrite it.
Yeah.
I'm going to take less money up front to make this thing work, with the hope that I'm going to have that, like, you know, ramp that goes up.
Right.
So, and then that happened almost a year ago now, right, as you're transitioning to that. But homeowner now.
Yeah.
which in a short amount of time is incredible.
Yeah.
Your book of business is almost to what it was a year into independence, what it was at Farmers, which is wild.
Yeah.
And your swing miss rate is so low. Like now you have all the markets, and when you swing, you usually hit the ball. Right. Which is a huge benefit to you. It benefits your income, benefits your family.
Yeah.
But at the time, like hard to see that. Right, hard for your wife to see it because it's a stranger that's talking to her husband.
Right.
So walk us through that though. What ended up being the like? Okay, I believed in myself. She had her doubts. You still had your doubts.
Mm-hmm.
What was the thing from your perspective that was like, I'm gonna take this risk?
Getting uncomfortable. I needed to get uncomfortable. You know, and for me, I had entered into fatherhood and husbandhood and everything else, and I felt that, you know, the next step for me to elevate ourselves, our family, myself, was just taking the leap of faith. And every time I had a conversation with you, you know, it was what I really, really respected was the support that you and the team and everybody else had promised.
Sure.
You know. And then, you know, jumping in, feeling that support and the guidance and everything else, like just secured the decision. But I think, you know, kind of just to go back to your original question, it was a leap of faith for real. Like my wife did not want me to do it. Like she did not want me to do it, you know, because, you know, I was going to miss out on coming home for lunch and you know, is definitely a big commute for me. I'm against traffic, whatever. It takes me 30 minutes. It's not a big deal. But it's a
big difference from 7 minutes to 30 to 35 minutes, right? So you live in Pasadena still. We're in Santa Clarita. So it was dude, I'm going to be gone longer than I would normally have to deal with, right?
Right. But I had to set all those aside and just look at, you know, what I was missing out on, what opportunities I was missing out on, and what could be if I just, you know, made the jump. And I'm so grateful that I did. I mean, I love the office setting, like, you know, everybody in the bullpen, our account managers. I mean, it's just such a great.
Got good people.
Yeah, really good people. I mean, the you know, the culture. I know that's one of your guys.
It's a big core value of ours. Yeah.
Core value. Culture is huge. And I felt that. And, you know, when I first came in, we were grinding, and it was a small office.
Dude,
and
I remember that first day you kind of came in, you were like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah,
you know?
I was a little shocked, and I was like, you know what? Like let's go. This is the path that I chose. And I think commitment for me, like the past, you know, I'd say 5 years for me, like that has been like my word, like commitment. Like just when you commit to something, you gotta commit, you gotta dive in, you know?
I did that a year before you came in starting the business, right? I felt that like this is the time to commit to do something big. And it's like, I got to do it now.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting younger,
Yeah.
you know? So, not that like we're old by any measure, like you're 35.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we have so many years ahead of us. Right. So, and I think from your perspective too, seeing the drawbacks that were commute and, you know, uncertainty, I think you knew those were temporary too. And we had talked like, if there's a day where we can start an office out more towards you, I would love that because I love that area. And it's like, yeah, we want to grow the brand and I want to do it with good people. So I think there was some of that, like, okay, this Santa Clarita thing might not be for 10 years. It might be for whatever, short term, 2, 3, 4, until we can figure something out. And because we're always trying to acquire, I mean, I threw some offers to some La Cañada and Pasadena companies. You know, it's like there's always opportunity for a growing business to like, you can change your outcome and like, hey, can I run an office?
For sure.
You can.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's a big part of the decision making that I think you did really well on. Kind of just sidebarring, I pitched you a bunch of stuff. Am I as intense as you thought? Because I knew I was intense up front.
You know, I think you see the not the expectation of people, but you do see what their expectation can be.
I love potential.
Yeah,
Is like
potential.
Yeah, potential.
You love the potential of. You can see that in people, and I think you do really well at bringing out an individual's potential, and I needed that too.
It feels a lot like pressure and intensity, though.
You know what?
Until you get to understand where I'm coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, I've all throughout, you know, my younger years in high school and everything.
And stuff,
I was an athlete, so like having that drive, that push, you know, that intensity is good for me.
Totally.
Like my wife is very intense. Very intense.
And you like it.
And I like it. And I like it, you know, but you know, it's dude, it gets us out of our comfort zone, you know, and it's like I'm not complacent. Like, you know, I'll make a big deal and I'm like, all right, like that felt really good. What's the next one?
On to the next.
You know, like that's what it's got to be.
I've always felt like good salespeople have something wrong with them a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you just made 30 grand. Yeah, I know. It's almost like it was expected. I had that feeling. Yeah, what's the next thing? I always feel like you kind of have it too. I mean, you'll throw some money on the board and you're like, awesome. And you move on. Like you just want the next thing. And I think that's a good like mental gear to be in because that's our world. It's like, yeah, I'm happy. I'm proud of myself and I'm not satisfied.
Right.
You definitely have that like gear in you.
My dad was always in sales. He was in, you know, medical device sales. And, you know, he had a mentor that he always tells me about that said, you know, I don't care what you do Monday through Friday, at the end of the month, are you getting it done? Exactly
right.
You know, so, you know, the work-life balance for me now, just kind of going back on that. Yeah. I mean, it hasn't been better. I mean, I've been able to, you know, manage that, still working on it. But, you know, I obviously love spending time with my family and my son and but I also love the grind. I mean, I love, like I said, I love like sealing a deal, like a big deal, and then you know, telling the boys in the bullpen, and then we're like, all right, let's go. What's next?
I love it too.
So
now, speaking of the work-life balance, I know I was pitching that because I've been golfing every Friday for goodness knows how long now. I think it's like 7 years, and I told you, I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of work for the first year, but then it's like, go do what you want. Yeah. You know, I kind of do the thing. You do the work in Burbank, Bali, or Bora Bora. Like, I don't care as long as the numbers come through. Right. You feel like that's been true?
Absolutely.
Because you don't have to ask you tell me where you're going, but I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think I still like that. Hey, I'm going to take a family trip these days or whatever. But you know, for me, it's like I'm taking those days, but just know I'm going to come back. I'm going to grind up until I leave the day before. And then when I get back, the day after, I'm grinding.
Totally.
Like,
and there's freedom in that job. That's what I pitched. Like, just do your job, do a good job. And then it's like, I want you to go on vacations. That's why you work hard, right? You're supposed to spend time with your family. And then when you come in, you work hard to spend time with your family. It's a revolving door.
Exactly.
So that's good, man. And then financially, I know we talked about there was that fear of step back. And there still was, right? You still definitely took a step back. The market hardened significantly. It felt like as you were leaving, you know, it's like all these apartment markets went, hey, no more. We won't do any more business. We're like, whoa. And this was right as you were transitioning. Crazy. Yeah. It's worked out.
I got out at the perfect time. I mean, I couldn't have planned. I mean, not that, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that sounds bad, but I mean, I was able to transition into my new position at the right time.
You were already limited. You would have been so handcuffed.
I would have been so handcuffed. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Even on the personal line side, I mean, brutal. It's super brutal. And, you know, the timing couldn't have been better. You know, the market, as you always say, has changed a ton, but, you know, that just makes us, you know, present better to our clients.
You've taken advantage of it just like I have. I love when things are complicated because that means I can solve complicated problems, and that means I can charge a lot of money to solve a complicated problem. Right. So, and again, you've done that well. You charge fees like, hey, I solved a problem in 2 days where your other broker couldn't do it in 2 months. Right. You're going to pay a fee. And it's like, that's for the quality of work that we do. Right. And you've made up some big numbers over the past year in fees because you have done such a good job. And the market, as grotesque as it is right now for people, it's been so good for us. Right. And we don't say that to like, you know, bash on our clients and like, oh, we're screwing, but we are actually saving them money to what they were going to have and still charging fees and still making money on our part because we are saving them so much money.
Absolutely.
So it's been a good thing for you. And so you have your son. How old's Liam now?
He just turned 3 March 10th.
3. Yeah. Liam's coming up on a new room in the new house soon, which is exciting.
I know.
You guys bought a house in Pasadena. I know that was a big leap of faith too.
Yeah.
It's hard to buy houses out here.
Yeah.
I feel like another thing where I was like, dog, you got to buy a house.
Yeah.
I was pressing you hard on that. And you guys wanted it, but it didn't feel like it was going anywhere. When did you flip and going, all right, I'm doing well enough to where we can like push this and buy a house?
Yeah. I mean, I think really when I came over here and within the first couple months, I was like, yeah, this is gonna work out, and I'm gonna be able to make some good money over here.
Yeah.
And I was able to show my wife, hey, look, this is a progress report. I had to give her progress reports on, hey, where I'm going.
Your commission statements, all that.
Everything. And the systems that you guys have in place allows me as a producer to look at those numbers and just show, a significant other or whatever, yourself, where on track you are, and, even projecting for the future with the accounts that I have across my desk, like you said earlier, like my win ratio is like
so high.
It's very high.
Yeah.
And clients were coming to me with real big issues, and just the amount of opportunity we have in carriers really gives us an advantage.
Huge advantage.
Great relationships with everybody. So kind of back to what you asked. I mean, I felt within the first 3 to 6 months we were really serious about it. We didn't know what our budget went from the original budget to where we closed on the house in Pasadena, which is crazy. But
welcome to LA real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I have all the faith, in the world that I'm just going to continue to elevate because of the support that Greyhawk provides. And just, the grind the dog that I have in me, I got the dog in me.
Dude barking there,
let's go. And, it's just when your life changes when you have a family.
It has to. Yeah.
It has to. Like, I've never been more motivated in my life to be successful. I mean, not a lot of people can say this, but I mean, and I say it with pride. I mean, my wife makes more money than me, and I don't want to continue to say that for much longer. Babe, I love you, and you're coming quick, bro. And so, and I'm cool with that. Like,
I get what you're saying.
But I want to be able to be that contributor where, if we want to go on a week-long vacation and like, I don't want to have to be worried about like making the mortgage and then going on a week-long vacation. Like, I want to be comfortable doing that. And that I want my son to see, what a good life is. I mean, thankfully we were both blessed to have that. And I want that for my son,
I respect that. Yeah.
So, I mean, we only going up, baby.
I love it, dude. I love it. And I remember you told me when we were starting to have the conversation, you're like, hey, I made good money this year. My wife makes good money. You're like, but I would really, really, really love to just like throw some big numbers on the board. And you wanted to buy a house. That was even when we talked about it. That was one of the goals, right? So it was cool to see all of that come to fruition. But again, your wife's a gangster. So, yeah. And then from there, right, so the job for you now is you're a producer. You sell. At your previous agency, you were doing kind of everything, which service, taking phone calls, changes, certificates, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So now that you're freed up to just do sales, you feel like that system with a support team behind you that's doing all of the renewals and all that, definitely the way to go?
Absolutely. I mean, I still think and I know you do this too, the personal relationship with the client is so key. Because that's how we got them, right?
It's the only way you can grow too. Like those are the people that tell you, hey, he does a good job.
Exactly.
You should talk to him.
Exactly.
Right?
So I think always nurturing that relationship is huge. But to be able to have a support system like we do with our account managers to get certificates done in an hour if needed.
So fast.
You know, having the platform where they have their own app, you know, like that's huge.
Huge.
You know, I mean, Greyhawk provides, you know, everything in today's time. You're so tech forward, you know, which everybody's moving in that direction. So, you know, coming from, you know, a place where, you know, we were still using a lot of paper folders, right? Yeah, I remember I walked in with my briefcase and I pulled out, you know, like papers, and you're like, what's this?
I think I went like that. Yeah, I think I shuddered. Yeah. I was like, what is this, man?
And, you know, so, but kind of back to it. I mean, it's just, you guys are so forward thinking, and you want to make life easier and implement systems that work not only for us, but for account managers and clients to make it simplistic. So they can get back to doing what they do.
That's
and
the whole
so
point.
we can get back to making deals, you know?
I may have pitched it to you back when we started, but I'm trying to combine the Flintstones with the Jetsons.
Yeah.
I want the personal relationship to be the Flintstones.
I love
old
that.
school,
Yeah.
like just be there, right? But I want the Jetsons processes so we can talk to clients more, so we can actually do the insurance work more. And so you've seen there's a lot of stuff, a lot of tech, but it really does help you get that
For
time
sure.
back to do the actual work of insurance.
Yeah, and then, you know, kind of just going back on the support, like I remember the first month that I was with Greyhawk, and I presented a networking symposium.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, you were like, yeah, let's do it, no brainer. You know, like let's do that networking thing. It cost Greyhawk whatever it cost, but you were like so supportive of that, and I was like, whoa, like that's awesome. Like I love that. And then it continued, and it's just like, you know, you put so much emphasis on supporting your people and investing into them so they can be successful. And that was huge. Like I didn't know that in the beginning until that it actually started happening.
Right.
And you know, it's comforting to have that support when you know you can go to an event and, you know, you have that Greyhawk brand and you support it. Daniel supports it. JP supports it. And then I'm there too, you know, being, you know, the person who, you know, had built that relationship. And then they're like, oh, okay, like, wow, like these guys are powerful, you know? So it was great. I mean, it was great to have that support. It was great to see that, you know, all the partners were investing into me to help me grow into where I am today and where I'm going to go.
That's awesome to hear. I mean, our business model is to train up the future, right? I want people who can see that we are moving in a forward direction on tech and that we want to do good work and that we say what we're going to do, right? Like we're men of our words. So it makes me happy to hear that like it's work now. And that was one of my questions. It's like, how has it been different than maybe you thought it was going to look like making the move, and how did it meet your expectations or exceed them?
Definitely exceeded my expectations, and I'm being honest with that, truthful. I could not be in the position where I am today without the support of Greyhawk. My business would have, I felt, hit a plateau.
Sure.
And I think that's where I was when I ultimately decided to make the leap, make the transition. But yeah, I'm super grateful for where I am today. I'm grateful for, you know, what the future holds for us. I'm excited. I'm excited and
too, yeah.
We haven't skipped a beat. You know, if anything, we've taken a couple beats
forward for sure.
So I'm pumped. I mean, you know, and even having like the young producers in the office too. Like, I love just like nurturing them and seeing their potential, because they also, even though they don't have a lot of knowledge,
keep you young.
They
man.
keep us young.
That fire,
bro. They got the fire, and then also they're so good with the tech stuff.
Completely.
You know, and if like I'm like, hey, you know, Keaton, I need something on this. You know, he doesn't have maybe a year under his belt, but he's teaching me things. I was just talking to him about that, and to see his grind, you know,
the boy's working hard.
Oh, he's working.
And he's
hard.
got the fire.
Yeah,
it's fun to be around.
Yeah. So, and that's what keeps me like grinding. Like when Wes puts up big numbers or Jess puts up big numbers, or I see, you know, a big number come up on the board for that month, and I'm like, all right, like, Well, I gotta be up there, you know? So it's like, that's what's cool. Like at my old place, it was just me and my boss. You know, here it's like, we're competing for, you know, those bonuses and everything else that come along with the incentives that you guys provide. And that's cool. Like I can see on paper, like, okay, if I hit this benchmark, this is my incentive, you know, like those are the goals that I'd like to see and that are actually attainable.
They're attainable. Yeah. They're not stupid goals. Yeah.
They're not, you know, and that's what I love. You know,
for us, right, as a producer who was kind of, I don't want to say on his own because I had other people that worked with me previously, but I was definitely that guy. Like I was the guy that was pushing. I wanted to go faster. I wanted more support. I wanted to go bigger, bigger, bigger. And I couldn't. I was like, I wanted all of that. Like, give me the fire. Yeah. I want to be around people who make me better. For sure. And there was a whole bunch of studies, and I can't remember where it came from, but it was like if you sit next to the worst performer in a classroom, you end up being 15 to 20% worse a scorer.
I believe it.
But they move you next to the top performer, and you end up being 30 to 35% higher than the average. And you're like, whoa, so this guy brings you down, but this guy really elevates you. Yeah. And it's like, that's what I wanted to be. I just wanted a bunch of A players in the room. And I put my money where my mouth is. I incentivized that big time. And then if you're not making it, you get cut. Right. Which is, you know, I've had to do a couple times where it's like, hey, you're just not making it. This isn't a good fit. Right. Right. And I remember you came to me, you're like, you did not do that. I was like, yeah, I did. You're like, that's sick. That's gangster. But that culture for winning matters. For sure. And you know what it's like to be alone and just feel like you're swimming in the water. Yeah. It's not fun. No. It's not fun. You're still making money, but it's not.
Yeah. It's hard, not satisfying. Yeah, there's no push. We need the push.
We need the push, man. Yeah, I mean, I love it. So then from here, right, before I say future, just for the audience, like, what do you do? Like, what is your specialty? I know you do a lot of property, but like, what do you feel like you're confident that you're going to feel like you're going to keep pushing because it's working?
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of friends and family in the trades industry. So contracting, I think we've got a killer market for it. I mean, it's just nobody out there can compete with the markets that we have. So, you know, contractors for sure I specialize in.
Apartments you do really well.
Yeah, for how hard apartments are. I mean, we've got some great markets for apartments. Some HOAs, restaurants.
Yeah, you did a lot of that back in the day.
We have some good markets for restaurants. The bars we have great programs in too. So kind of that, like, you know, the tradesman, hardworking, then also kind of the fun entertainment kind of, you know, risk. But yeah, I mean, property's been my go-to. I have a lot of big time friends in the lending world and commercial real estate, property management. So just nurturing those relationships, I think, has been very fruitful for me. And then just, you know, the furniture wholesale distributor manufacturers. So that's kind of like my specialty. But you know, we've been in the game for a while, so it's hard to
stump me right now at this point. You're in that same place where it's like, just give me a couple minutes to figure it out, and I got it. You know, and I can put it together.
That's the cool thing. I mean, we have so many relationships with so many different wholesalers or carriers and markets and stuff where I can make a phone call and know an answer in 5 minutes. So easy. You know?
Yeah.
So that I think, because I'm a phone guy, you know, like email, I like emailing and stuff like that, but I'd rather just get on the phone and be like, hey.
So relationships are made too. Yeah. I know. It's hard to say no to somebody when you got them on the phone. They can hear you.
Exactly.
You know?
So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, that those risks I've done well in, and I want to continue to grow in that space. But, you know, I think where we are, I mean, there's a lot of markets out there. There's a lot of different types of businesses out there. I mean, 100%. So many.
Well, on top of that, there's just so many, but there's so much disruption in the marketplace that you're really capitalizing on, because insurance carriers are backing out of the market, and like, you're sitting there. State Farm, just people who don't know, they're backing out of apartments completely in the state of California. You already do that well. Yeah. It's like, all we have to do is get those leads. You're going to write them well. They're going to be more expensive than they were paying, but you're going to help those people, bar none. All those homes in the brush, they're also getting off of. State Farm's getting off of anything in a fire area. you're going to be able to help all those people, right? And you're well positioned for it, and you're an expert. So it's going to be good times. With that, future looking, like what do you see the future as the Romeros and, you know, and Greyhawk and how that all works out?
Yeah, I mean, for the future, I mean, the sky is the limit for sure. And just to kind of go back, I mean, I think right now to be in the brokerage market or to be a broker, like this is the time to get in.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can build if you can build relationships and talk to people, the knowledge and the education of the insurance industry you can attain. But this is the time to get into insurance on the brokerage side. I mean,
I completely, and you probably agree with me. This is the best kept white collar job that there is.
100%.
Yeah, everyone wants to be a finance guy or accounting person, but like if you can understand insurance is the way, you will make money.
You will make money.
There's not enough of us young people out there.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I have high hopes for the Romeros and Greyhawk. I mean, Pasadena is just a untapped, well, I'm sure it's tapped somewhere, but it's untapped market where there's a lot of business owners, a lot of high net worth people there. It would be great to expand in the future. I really like where I'm at now. I do really enjoy coming into the office. I'm not even kidding. I know that sounds weird, but I'm a guy. My wife works from home.
Sure.
She's been working from home since the pandemic started, and I need to be in an office to focus, to grind, to put my head down and do what I need to do. She makes it work because she's, you know, extremely focused and dedicated, but yeah, I mean, an office in Pasadena or something, it'd be so sweet, man. Yeah. I mean, it'd be great. I mean, I have so many relationships out there.
I started my career in Pasadena. I was there for 5 years. I loved Pasadena. For a place to do business, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it truly is. So yeah, I mean, I'm in it for the long haul, baby.
I love it, dude.
I'm here. So
I'm super excited to have had the opportunity to get you to move over here. And I know it worked out it's perfect timing. And I feel like God set it up, which was awesome to see it. It's a success story for us because I don't want to say it was a risk because I feel like I knew it was going to happen, but I know it was a big risk on your part. And that's part of that entrepreneurial spirit. It's like you had to take the risk just like I did to start the business. And it was like, there's all these uncertainties, but I felt like, yeah, that little guy within was like, no, we got this. Yeah. So it was really cool to see it play out. It's cool to see things progress. Obviously, I feel like a dad. Yeah. You know, it's like, hey, my son here, you know.
I love it.
Little Rogelio's killing it, you know.
I love it, dude.
But anyway, man, thank you for coming on the podcast. And I'll link your socials on there so people want to reach out to you. Roger does property again with the best of them. So if you're interested, hit him up. And if you're interested in Greyhawk, I know you've done it for some other people. They can talk to you about, hey, what does it look like actually, right? So it's not just coming from the main guy. But dude, thank you again. Love having you. And for all those who have any questions, please reach out. And we will see you on the next episode of the Risky Assets Podcast. Take care.